Hey everyone, my journal club discussion is focusing on exclusive breastfeeding and maternal employment among mothers of infants from 3 to 5 months old in the Fafan Zone, Somali region state of Ethiopia, and it is a comparative cross-sectional study. According to UNICEF.org, EBF, exclusive breastfeeding, has shown to save lives that is one of the most cost-effective investments a country can make to prevent infant mortality and morbidity. There are many benefits to child's health and nutrition when EBF is implemented. Breast milk contains all the nutrients an infant needs for the first 6 months of life. Breast milk also protects the baby from diarrhea, which is one of the leading causes of death for children under the age of 5 in Ethiopia. Breast milk is rich in antibodies that can help a baby fight off a virus or bacteria. Exclusive breastfeeding also provides all of the fluids needed for optimal growth and development during the first 6 months. Evidence suggests that initiation of breastfeeding in the first day of life is associated with a significant reduction in the risk of neonatal mortality when compared with delaying breastfeeding for more than 24 hours after birth. Not only are there acute benefits for a child's nutritional health, but there are lifelong impacts like poor school performance, reduced productivity, and impaired intellectual development that can develop with a lack of breastfeeding. One of the Sustainable Development Goal targets including ending hunger, especially among the most vulnerable populations. This includes ending all forms of malnutrition, especially stunting and wasting of children under the age of 5. Therefore, in order to accomplish this goal, a closer look needs to be taken to identify some of the factors that influence EBF in countries like Ethiopia to ensure that appropriate infant feeding practices are being implemented to attain the Sustainable Development Goal. I chose this paper because my family is from Ethiopia and I'm really passionate about doing maternal and child health there. I hope that one day I'll have the opportunity to go back and kind of work in a global public health aspect and in some form. Kind of moving to the issues during investigation. Although several studies have been conducted on the factors that are associated with EBF, there has been insufficient information regarding the effects of maternal employment in the formal sector on EBF practices in the semi-pastoral community of the country specifically. Therefore, the study is intended to bridge the gap by assessing associations between maternal employment and EBF practices among mothers who have infants between the ages of 3 and 5 months. The finding of this study will be crucial to the implementation of interventions that speed up the government's efforts in promoting EBF and therefore decreasing the rates and burden of infant morbidity and mortality. Exclusive breastfeeding is an important risk factor for infant and young children morbidity and mortality. According to the World Health Organization, EBF, exclusive breastfeeding, is defined as an infant's consumption of breast milk without supplementation of any other food or drink, not even water except for oral rehydration through salt, vitamins, minerals, and medications. In developing countries like Ethiopia, various maternal and child factors, including maternal employment, have been responsible for the low prevalence of EBF. In the study, the researchers hypothesized that one of the barriers to EBF is the mother being employed. Because of increasing urbanization and level of education, the proportion of employed women in Ethiopia has been increasing gradually. Like I mentioned, the study aim is to look at employment in the formal sector on EBF practices in semi-pastoral community of the country. In the methods, the study was conducted from January to February 2016 among mothers with infants between ages 3 to 5 months living in Fafan Zone of the Somali region of Ethiopia. This area is a semi-pastoralist community located on the eastern border of the country. Migrants come from those areas in hopes of trading and employment opportunities. Primary employers include government and non-governmental organizations. In the study, participants were both employed and unemployed mothers with infants between ages 3 to 5 months, living in 5 districts: Jijiga City, Kebrahai Town, Abri Town, Bombas, and Bable. The study design was a community-based comparative cross-sectional study. Quantitative data was collected by face-to-face interview techniques using pre-tested structured questionnaires adapted from the Ethiopian Health and Demographic Survey. The questionnaire conducted questions on the infant characteristics, such as age and sex, maternal demographic characteristics, such as age, occupation, income, education, and marital status, breastfeeding knowledge, obstetric characteristics, and EBF practice. The outcome variable in the study is the status of EBF of infants between 3 to 5 months. Employment status of mothers, only those who are actively working full-time in either government organizations or NGOs by the time the data collections were considered. Additionally, while mothers who were housewives without a job were considered as unemployed in the study. Statistical analysis data entry was made by the EPI Info version 3.5 software package and analyzed through SPSS version. A binary logistic regression model with interlogistics regressions analysis method was utilized to examine the effect of maternal employment on EBF. So moving towards the results, among the total 583 mother-infant pairs recruited by the census, 558 were included in the analysis, a total of 445 unemployed and 113 employed mothers. As far as breastfeeding knowledge and obstetric characteristics, the entire employed and unemployed mothers supported the importance of breastfeeding for infant health. Majority 80% of employed and 80 of the employed and 308 of unemployed mothers supported the importance of breastfeeding for maternal health respectively. Almost all of the respondents, 112 of the employed and 440 of the unemployed mothers, said breast milk is better than infant formula. Moving towards exclusive breastfeeding practices, the study revealed that the prevalence of EBF practices was 24.8 and 82.9% among employed and unemployed mothers. Reasons why employed women did not breastfeed, one being engaged at workplace, the second being the perception that breast milk only is not enough, and then third, decreased milk secretion as well as illness of the mother. Unemployed had the same responses as far as being engaged at work, the perception that breast milk is not only enough, and decreased milk secretion. In the Biovrint analysis, being an unemployed mother, younger age of the infant, timely initiation of breastfeeding, having positive attitudes towards breastfeeding an infant in public place, and delivering at a health facility was significantly associated with EBF. Among all, those mothers who were unemployed were 26 times more likely to EBF their child compared to those employed mothers. Mothers with monthly incomes between 500 to 2,000 and 2,001 to 3,500 birr were twice as likely to practice EBF compared to those with above 3,501 birr monthly income. Mothers who completed secondary and higher education were about 4 times more likely to practice EBF compared to those who were illiterate. Those who initiated breastfeeding within 1 hour of delivery were about 3 times more likely to practice EBF compared to their counterparts. In conclusion of the authors, since there is no breastfeeding-friendly environment like facilities for breastfeeding at workplaces, employed mothers couldn't take their infants to the workplace and breastfeed there. Therefore, the effects of the stated reason above has an effect on EBF and employed mothers. Maternal employment in government organizations or NGOs may have a negative influence on EBF practices. In addition, early initiation of breastfeeding, low income, maternal education, and younger infant age were also significantly associated with EBF. In developing countries like Ethiopia, where the rate of urbanization increases through time, the tendency of women to be educated and employed would be high. In effect, this reduces the chances of their infants to be exclusively breastfed and in turn increase under 5 mortality due to infant malnutrition. So going into my prior knowledge, having immigrant parents from Ethiopia has kind of given me an insight on the culture, values, and beliefs, and some of the current things that are also happening within the country. Like the study mentioned, parts of Ethiopia is moving towards urbanization at a faster rate. Therefore, with initiatives to increase women equality, women are beginning to obtain employment. However, the country still faces childhood malnutrition. Breastfeeding serves as a sustainable economical benefit to not only the baby but also the mother. Not only are the children being given nutrition, but it allows the mother to feed their child without having to need to directly fund. However, with that being said, it should be considered that the mother needs to gain proper nutrition for herself first to be able to provide for her baby. So, kind of going into the assessment of the paper, I do think this was a well done paper. It included a large sample population and participation. They included women from diverse groups, religions such as Christian and Muslim, education, socioeconomic status. It is also relatively generalizable as far as inclusion criteria. However, it should be taken into account that there is vast differences between the different regions and tribes in Ethiopia, which I'll kind of discuss in the critique section. They had an excellent response rate. The study design collected quantitative data with face-to-face interview techniques using pre-tested structured questioning. They adapted it from the Ethiopian Health Demographic Survey. They also included two different languages. Amharic is the main language in Ethiopia, but there is 200 different languages and 83 different dialects spoken. The researchers did a well job by including this rare dialect of Smoleniga. And this allows for participants to feel more comfortable and obtain the most accurate information by eliminating the language barrier that might exist. This allows for researchers to collect the depth and breadth of information and data from this population. However, one critique was that the researchers did not disclose the nutritional health of the babies who were breastfed versus those who were not. It did not include the status of these babies, such as weight, height, and other variables that contribute to a baby's overall health and development. This criteria may have been out of the scope of the study, but it would have served as a valid argument to why EBF is essential to promoting nutrition to babies in Ethiopia across the country. The study was also done in Fara region in the Faha zone of the Somali region state of Ethiopia, which has very different cultural and societal norms compared to other areas of Ethiopia such as Addis Ababa, Gondar, and Dese. Different regions in Ethiopia have different cultural values and different aspects as far as women's empowerment, child nutrition, and these could yield a different response if the research was conducted in a different area. Kind of moving forward to the 9 principles of CBPR, this article did not really hit a lot of these points, but they did touch on one point of balancing research and action. The study concluded by stating implementation and establishing breastfeeding-friendly working environments and information such as education and communication programs should be provided, especially for working mothers, to promote exclusively breastfeeding practices. So the article study showed different barriers and factors that influence why employed mothers weren't breastfeeding and why mothers who weren't employed were able to breastfeed, and they were able to implement intervention to solve the issue at hand. Kind of going to my thoughts on the summary and conclusion, that despite its proven benefits, the proportion of exclusively breastfed children up to 6 months is lower than the optimal recommendation. Studies conducted in different parts of the country indicate that more than 80% of women are knowledgeable about EBF. Nevertheless, only 52% of children under the age of 6 months are exclusively breastfed, and the percentage of EBF declines with age. So this leads me to think that there is a gap between the knowledge and actually taking action and exclusively breastfeeding children. Therefore, I think that there should be more investigation and research on those specific barriers to women who have the knowledge about EBF, but for whatever reason are not implementing that choice of breastfeeding their child before their age of 6 months. So kind of looking at Ethiopia from a whole, there is a need to reduce death and illness and malnutrition caused by poor breastfeeding and complementary feeding practices. I think it's important to move towards prevention of malnutrition instead of just looking at it from emergency nutrition. So to do so, I think there should be a policy shift towards prioritization of stunting reduction. Additionally, I think there is a need to increase feeding practices to women and their families through home visits, village gatherings, and radio spots. However, this research brought forth another barrier besides education and actually taking action of EBF. With the rate of urbanization, but also in conjunction with high rates of malnutrition, it calls for the need to action to modify the work environment and norms to allow women to breastfeed while also being employed. And this is my reference page. Thank you guys so much for watching my presentation, and let me know if you have any questions in the discussion board. Thank you.